Hey everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show, entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. How's everybody doing today? Let's welcome Michael to the show. Hey, Michael. And let's welcome
Hello.
Alan to the show as well. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Welcome to the Jim Masters Show. You guys, you've made it to the big time now. You're here on JMS. I know you've dreamed of this all your lives. You've worked so hard to get on this show, and here you are. How does it make you feel? They've already called you loveities already.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
It's
We
all
feel very
downhill from here.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. Only one way to go from the summit.
How long have you guys known each other? Have you worked together on a lot of other projects over the years?
Yeah, we've been working together, I guess at this point, more than half of our lives.
Really?
We met in college. We both went to Northwestern University and got our start in writing for musical theater. Northwestern has this annual student written review called the WAMU Show. And we both wrote a whole bunch of songs for it and became mutual fans and friends and have been lucky to get a lot of opportunities to work together ever since.
Wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. So do you remember the very first thing you guys worked on together?
Sure. Yeah, it was the year, Jim, the year was 2002, which is or maybe it was 03, but regardless, we were in college. We were like the kind of 9/11 years. We were in college, right? Like I drove cross country with my parents to go to school on 9/12/2001. So September 11th was very obviously much in the forefront of everyone's consciousness. And I remember the very first thing we worked on together, I think, was Mike. Mike had written the bulk of a beautiful ballad called "That's When I Miss You." That was kind of a kind of subtle backdoor into talking about loss and grief. And we, as Mike said, we quickly discovered that we liked each other's work, and we're both kind of hungry to work on more stuff. And so he and I sat down together and kind of worked on it together, and came up with something that was maybe greater than the sum of its parts, and that we were the music and lyrics were well received, and we were kind of off to the races.
That's incredible. Mike, you worked on Broadway with the revival of Miss Saigon. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was such a thrill. I mean, to get to work with Alan Bublil and Claude Michel Schoenberg was just a dream. I mean, I grew up, and Alan did. I'm sure too. You know, listening to their Les Mis and Miss Saigon over and over and over again, and just absorbing that, you know, and having it become a part of my musical theater DNA. So to get a chance to sort of help them reshape the show for a newer audience was a total thrill. And the fact that they were so game to change it up, you know, I mean, Miss Saigon was such a hit when it first came out.
Right.
They could have very easily just said, okay, here it is again, you know, but the fact that they took the opportunity, they knew it was coming back to Broadway. And so they were like, well, you know, let's sharpen it. Let's refine it. Let's, you know, take this opportunity to work and make it better. You know, that was probably the most inspiring thing, not just how brilliant they were, but that they were sort of relentless in wanting to make the show better.
Which is terrific. And you've also worked on Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Secret of My Success, October Sky. Tell us about some of those projects as well. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what's fun is Alan and I are both composers and lyricists, so we work in a whole wide variety of ways. And some shows we write together, and some shows we write by ourselves. It's kind of a very healthy open marriage that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both we worked on Diary of a Wimpy Kid together. That was a thrill to get to adapt that book with book writer Kevin Del Aguila. It was a series that I didn't grow up with, but once we sort of got the gig and started to do our homework, they're such delightful books, and to get to sort of relive those middle school years was traumatic but healing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alan, you worked on the music, lyrics, score, and song production kitting on Showtime. Tell us about that. That's cool.
That was a wild experience. The show was created by another dear friend of both of ours, an old pal of ours named Dave Holstein, who writes a lot for TV and film, who I've been collaborating with also since back in our college days. He brought me on board right at the beginning of that process. We were on for 2 seasons. I worked closely alongside Jim Carrey and Ariana Grande and Judy Greer and Kesha for a minute and Dick Van Dyke. It was wild. It was absolutely wild to be working with folks at that kind of level of artistic and otherwise success. It was very eye-opening and thrilling, and the good kind of challenging. It was a medium that I had not worked in before at that scale. Mike and I are both like musical theater kids, and I was definitely a fish out of water in TV land. But I learned a ton. It was a thrill. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool show.
Isn't Dick Van Dyke the coolest? What a guy! I tell you,
he was. I forget how old he is now, but so this was when we worked together.
Like what, 97 or something?
That
now?
sounds right. So this was we worked together. I want to say 2019. It was maybe right before the pandemic, a year and change ish. So regardless, he was still well in his 90s. Couldn't have been sweeter. Had fun collaborative ideas. Was obviously very charming.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were wrapping up, I think I had just gotten engaged to Sara, to my wife. And I said, Dick, my wife, who doesn't really fan out terribly, but who did tell me, oh my God, Dick Van Dyke, you're working with Dick Van Dyke. That's incredible. So I said to him, I was like, please say no, but I've got my phone. Would you just wish my wife, Sara, like, congratulations on getting engaged? He's, oh, sure. Yeah, sure. So I picked up my phone and he said, Sara, it's Dick Van Dyke. I just want to wish you congratulations. And I have it on my phone right now. He couldn't have been sweeter.
And did she respond by saying what Mary Tyler Moore used to say to him? Oh, Rob.
When I showed her the video later, she nearly fell over is what she did.
She almost fell over the table.
I could imagine. We had Larry Matthews on the show who played Little Richie. And he was terrific, Richie on the Dick Van Dyke Show. And he talked about what it was like working with Dick Van Dyke and Carl Reiner and Mary Tyler Moore and
Giants.
Doug Denoff too, of course. His father, Sam Denoff. Doug's a friend, and he was on the show several times. And he was here, and we were talking about his father, Sam, one of the key writers on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and That Girl, and all those fantastic, iconic shows of the day. Really. Amazing stuff. And Jim Carrey and Ariana Grande, what variety, huh? You got a real mix of Americana there.
Yeah, it was wild. It was just wild. I mean, one thing leads to the next, by which I mean Jim Carrey opens all doors. When you're working on a show and Jim is at the helm of it, any human being on the planet you can think of, wouldn't it be cool to work with? You can probably call them up and say, Jim Carrey's doing the show, and they'll say, yeah. So as it happened, Ariana was I think Ariana and Jim were like Twitter pals, and like she's a huge fan of his, and I think the channels were channeled and someone reached out to her and said, Jim is doing the show, would you do this? And she said sure. So she showed up and sang my music. It was nuts. It's really nuts, but the best kind.
The best kind, right? Exactly. Also, you worked on My Little Pony, A New Generation, Netflix. Tell us about that.
That was another. That was another one that Mike and I worked on as a team. That was another really marvelous experience. Another new one for us. I think we hadn't written for an animated feature before. Yeah. So as per usual, there's always a learning curve. Understanding how the process works, how the sausage gets made. It unfolded over many years. Songs came and went, personnel came and went, just the nature of the business, people coming and going. We worked very closely with a brilliant music producer named Ron Fair, who has as many feathers in his cap as a cap can possibly have,
and about as many like gold and platinum records as feathers on a chicken.
Yes, correct.
Or Barry Manilow.
I mean, a real like music visionary, producing genius extraordinaire, who was like who was in charge of the musical buck stopped with him. And it's a tremendous learning experience to work with someone like that, because his taste, frankly, never mind his experience, which stretches back decades, but his taste is just so crystal clear that you just know you're in good hands. And it's like I think it's like working out a new muscle at the gym, where like you push it for the first time and you're like, that hurts, but in a way that I know, not in a way that I'm hurting myself, but in a way that I know I'm going to be stronger for it. So there are plenty of notes that you get that you have to kind of put on your big boy pants and understand that everything is in service of making the material absolutely as airtight as it possibly can be. So we wrote, and we were hired to write one song, and then happily that led to, hey, could you write a second song? And that led to, hey, could you write a couple more songs? So we ended up writing the bulk of the songs in the film, which was a real thrill. We flew down to Ron's home base in Nashville, and went to Ocean Way Studios, which is one of the preeminent, tracking spaces on the planet.
That was a blast. Just to have these incredible Nashville musicians playing our tunes, and
oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Ocean Way A is just kind of an unsurpassed like marvel of sound, and yeah, we were just perched there listening and thinking and trying to make it better. Yeah, and it came out. When did it come out? The fall of 21. It came out not terribly long ago. I through an odd twist, I ended up voicing the singing voice of Ken Jeong in the film myself. So his character's
you're
song.
Ken Jeong's Marnie Nixon.
I'm Ken Jeong's singing voice, bizarrely.
Wow.
But that was another crazy twist. But was
do you remember any of that? Are you able to do a little of it, the voice?
I couldn't possibly. I'm not nearly red and maned and four pony. But it was that was.
But it's on Netflix for all eternity.
It sure is, and Spotify and Apple Music and
yeah. It was just amazing. I mean, like Alan said, we'd never worked in that medium before, and I was just fascinated with how it all comes together. I mean, it takes a long time to animate something, so we would see so many different cuts of the movie, and because they had all this time to sort of refine it, like the plot would like drastically change between versions, and like entire sequences and characters would come and go, and to see it go from like we would get screeners to see how it's going, and like sometimes it would be like this scene is just like drawing on paper, like stills, and then this scene is like almost fully rendered but nobody has hair, and then this scene is like, it was so cool to see the process and how it goes in layers, and yeah, it was really cool.
That's amazing. And also something else you guys tackled, Alan, Lego Store the Musical.
Yes.
Yeah, this was really lovely. We the Lego opened a new flagship store on Fifth Avenue in New York. This was the week I got married, so that was June of 21. It was that week when we all thought COVID was over, right before Delta hit. That first like dip when everyone was starting to get vaccinated, and for like a minute, everyone thought the clouds were parting.
Right.
It was the perfect window to get married, because people.
It really was. It was the weekend to get married in that time, because like by 2 weeks later, everyone was masking up again. Neither here nor there. Lego wanted to announce the opening of their store and bigger picture kind of announce the reopening of New York City. There was the title that either, I forget if we were given the title or whether we came to it with the folks we worked on it with, but the concept of it was always building, that New York is always building and always moving forward, and there is life here. New York builds and builds on, and when I'm in New York City, I can shape my destiny into whatever I want it to be, because New York is, you will of course remember that at the time, and New York as the terrifying epicenter of that in 2020, there was a real sense of like ghost town-itis, and so I think there was a real desire to state loudly and clearly that New York was alive and thriving. So we were asked through a gentleman named Isaac Hurwitz, who we knew from working on Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He was charged with bringing the musical component of this short film into existence, and happily he reached out to Mike and I and asked us to write this tune. So we another kind of new frontier. We had never written something, I guess, quite like that before, but we wrote the music and lyrics. I ended up producing the music for it, and it came out. Yeah, it came out right around middle of 21 to welcome the new Lego store to Fifth Avenue, and also to state loudly and clearly that New York was alive and thriving and was going to be okay.
Yeah, I don't know how many other composer lyricist teams can say that their songs have been sung by Legos and ponies, but here we are. And mice coming up next.
That's right.
And mice too, exactly.
Yeah.
The Secret of My Success, NBC Universal. That's a great one too.
Yeah, that was another show we got to work on together. It's based on the Michael J. Fox romantic comedy from the 80s. It was such a madcap kind of romp, and it was a lot of fun to musicalize, because playing around with, it's kind of a mistaken identity story. Little kid from a small town goes to the big city and wants to make it big really fast and pretends to be a junior exec. And we were working on that. That show was actually opened in Chicago in a theater called Paramount, and it had to close early because the pandemic shut everything down. It was sort of tragic that it didn't get to finish its run there, but the show was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Also, some mentions some projects in development: Nightmare at the Museum and Frankenstein adaptation, The Monster. Tell us about that.
Night at the Museum is an adaptation of the Ben Stiller films, the Night at the Museum series. We are very little fish in a very big pond on that one. We're very fortunate. Mike and I are co-writing just the lyrics together, and Alan Menken is writing the music to that. The book is co-written by Sean Levy, who produced Stranger Things, who's All the Light We Cannot See, just released a really cool trailer coming out on Netflix. He's co-writing the book with Bob Martin, who wrote Drowsy Chaperone and The Prom, among other things. It's being produced by Kevin McCullum, who produced Rent and Avenue Q, and we've been working with on Diary of a Wimpy Kid. We are in rarefied waters with those folks, and learning a lot as we go. But yeah, we've been in development for a bit at this point. We did a workshop of it in Midtown Manhattan maybe a year and change ago. Stay tuned for more.
Yeah.
And the Frankenstein adaptation is called The Monster. That's the one we won the Richard Rodgers Award for. It's at the moment, it's like Frankenstein meets Facebook. It's about a Mark Zuckerberg-esque character who feels profoundly alone in the world and tries to fix it by bringing everyone together. And just like the source material, the show is a tragedy.
That's right.
Yeah, we're working with an incredible playwright on that one, Chelsea Marketel, and it's a cool update of a classic story. It's a different kind of sound for us too. We're finding like ways to mix kind of like gothic strings with like real like glitchy techno sounds, and yeah, hopefully it'll be really spooky.
That's cool. Look forward to that coming up. Yeah, keep us posted on that. That's exciting. And then, of course, the Children's Theatre Company is thrilled to announce the complete cast and creative team, which they've done for the highly anticipated world premiere, An American Tale, the Musical. Tell us about this exciting event that you guys are a part of.
It's so the musical is sorry, buddy. The musical is an adaptation of the classic 80s animated film, Amblin, I believe, Spielberg, Don Bluth, and we have been entrusted with the Grammy Award-winning Somewhere Out There, and There Are No Cats in America, and a few others, and have been tasked with building a score, music and lyrics for a full-length musical around it, alongside the stupendously brilliant Itamar Moses, who with the two of us is writing the lyrics. All three of us are writing the lyrics together, and Mike and I are doing the music. I'm doing the orchestrations. Itamar is doing the book, and it's been a joy. And I think a lot of people say that, but I'm happy to report that it's not. No smoke is being blown. It's legitimately been It's been a real pleasure working with. I mean, Mike and I have been working together, as we've said, for a long time, so that remains happily fruitful. Itamar is a very, very gifted writer and very, very gifted collaborator. Our director, Taibi Magar, is really marvelous. Katie Spelman, our choreographer, is hilarious and smart and sharp and very, very talented. Andrea Grody, our music director, is so on top of her game. She directed, forgive me, music directed The Band's Visit on Broadway, which is how she came into our circle via Itamar Moses, who did the book for Band's Visit. And we've been warmly welcomed back to CTC, where I'm currently bunkered right now, working on orchestrations in their recording studio. We've been warmly welcomed back here, having done Wimpy Kid twice here in years past, and we're fortunate that we're getting to do this world premiere of this really moving, surprisingly funny. Yep, there it is. Surprisingly funny. Maybe not surprisingly moving, delightful, creative, thrilling, and just really, really satisfying story. Oh, that's sweet.
Look at our awesome cast.
There's our cast. There's only some of our cast. It's a cast of thousands. It's a big, beautiful set. It's a big, beautiful band. It's a funny, heartfelt story. Oh, there they are. Look at them.
There's more of them.
The cast is really strong. I'm looking forward to it. That's hilarious.
We're right in the middle of rehearsals right now. The cast has just started to rehearse on stage, which is such a thrilling moment. We just had our sits probe last night, so that was the first time the orchestra and the cast all sang and played the songs together at the same time. Which was really thrilling. I get to say it because I didn't write them. The orchestrations on the show are really cool.
Thanks, buddy.
And yeah, we're still chipping away. You know, we're still making changes. I imagine we're going to keep making changes through previews, just trying to get it to be as good as it can be. But we're, like Alan said, we're in great hands, and we're so excited for people to get to come see this show.
Tell us about the show for those who haven't seen it and they're not familiar with it, or maybe they've heard the title before, but they've never even seen it. Tell us about the premise and the backstory of it.
Yeah. It's my understanding is it is originally the film is inspired, I think, by Spielberg's father or grandfather, whose name I think was Fievel, which is the name of the main character, the little boy.
Mousekewitz, right?
Mousekewitz, Fievel Mousekewitz. It's an immigrant tale. It's a story. It's a story of a Russian Jewish family of mice living in Russia at the close to the turn of the 20th century, who, like many mice and humans at that time, were forced to flee their home. And the story really kicks into gear when Fievel, our young protagonist, falls overboard on the middle of the steamer ship's trip across the Atlantic. His family, his two parents and his big sister, presume him dead and show up in America grieving. However, Fievel washes ashore onto Ellis Island in a beer bottle, and goes on a delightful and thrilling adventure of trying to find his family. And we spend time meeting all the characters he meets in Manhattan at the turn of the 20th century. We see his family try and struggle to grieve they think the loss of their son and settling into a new life in a brand new place. Identities are mixed up and paths are almost crossed, and they're good guys and bad guys, and a rally is held and a riot breaks out. There's a chorus of singing and dancing cockroaches near the end of the second act. It's bonkers, and there's, without giving too much away, there's a happy ending, and wrongs are made right, and everyone is left happy and moved and hopefully provoked into thought about the story of what it means to come to America from somewhere else, which is, of course, still bracingly relevant today.
And it's packed with the familiar songs and characters from the film, of course, but there's some captivating new characters, an expanded story, and new songs that are a part of it as well, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The songs we were given, I don't want to say free reign. That maybe sounds a bit too free, but we were happily in. I'll put it this way: we were entrusted with the material from the film that Mike and I and Itamar all remember from our childhoods. Specifically, of course, Somewhere Out There. I mean, won a Grammy Award.
Yeah.
No Cats in America is a classic, and there are a couple others that kind of came to the forefront of our memory, and it's a really interesting thing, excuse me, to be adapting material that comes with material like that, to adapting a story that has music material like that, because it's good. The songs that are there, to put it mildly,
Oh
it's
yeah.
they're classics, and so happily that if you let it, as a writer, can empower you to know that you've got a couple of really strong stakes in the sand. I know Somewhere Out There is going to show up here, and it's gonna be, it's gonna feel really good, great. And then close on the heels of that, it then becomes a watermark for you. Well, it's all got to be. We hope it's going to be. I am confident that we have been working really hard. But it becomes a creative and quality watermark. You know, it's all got to rise. Everything we do new, all of the character journeys that we expand, and all the new songs we write, and all the different musical influences we pull in, everything has to rise to the occasion of what it is about it that we remember and love and cherish. It's been a really interesting task, and one that time will tell. But I will say it's been a very fruitful collaboration. It's been a very positive and productive experience with Mike and Itamar, kind of the three of us putting our heads together to kind of crack the specific nut. And I think we're all kind of very, very eager to welcome in audiences to share the fruits of our labor and to take everyone on this journey. I think it's a really special one.
You concur with that, Michael?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it has been really a joy to sort of take this story that we love so much from our childhood and expand it to sort of make it live on a theatrical stage, and to do that with the songs too, and sort of looking at this time in America that was so thrilling, with all of these different influences coming in from all sorts of different places. We've worked really hard to sort of do our homework on this one, and look at that time period and that place, and see like how many different cultures and ethnicities in different places can we pull sounds from, because it was a time of like all sorts of different groups intermingling and meeting each other, and cultural exchange and ideas exchange, and sort of try to make the score reflect that, and find all those different sounds has been really, really fun.
When you get a chance to work on things that you're familiar with in this way, whether it's a revival or whatever it is, a reboot, whatever, something that you've always enjoyed yourself, it's got to be really cool, because do you ever feel like there's a weight on your shoulders because of the, not the grandiosity, but just because of the work, the material itself? You revere it so much, you respect it so much, that you want to make sure that you get it, you stay true to form to what the original was?
No, personally, I think it's very easy to fall into that quicksand. It's very tempting to, and I think it's part of being a healthy, creative individual, to do the work to frame it within yourself as as I was saying before, a bar, an occasion to rise to, rather than a challenge to be weighted down by. We we're doing a lot of fun things, I think, with the material. And happily, we have been thus far, famous last words, allowed to explore what it means to take these beautiful songs and adapt them for the stage. So the themes of those songs come back in underscore in really fun and interesting ways, in reprises in really fun and interesting ways. It's a creative sandbox, and it's like this is the gig. It's such a joyful gig to get to take something that's delicious and really dive into it, and make from it the best, really use it, take it to the end of the line in terms of using it for this adaptation. So I think it's possible to feel weighted down by it, but happily I think if one challenges oneself to look at it as the best kind of a challenge, it can hopefully draw good work out of you rather than suffocate you underneath its weight. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that we take this opportunity seriously. You know, we feel very honored to get to sort of carry this important story forward. And I feel like Itamar and Alan and I all have a lot of love and respect for the source material, and we also feel very strongly about how to sort of make something work on a musical theater stage, and it's a very different kind of a thing. And so that's the work we're doing, is to shore it up, to not fix what ain't broke, and to make, like Alan said, make sure that the whole piece rises to the wonderful pieces that we get to use from the original, and hopefully it'll be transporting. You know, I still feel, coming out of lockdown, like I still feel such a thrill just to get to sit in an audience with other people, you know, and to have that experience again is so not to be taken lightly. And I think we're all so excited to get the audiences in to see this and to experience it in a new way, you know, because it's one thing to sort of see a film on a screen happening in front of you in a movie theater, and then it's a whole other thing to have living, breathing actors play living, breathing mice and like sing these songs right in front of you in real time.
Is this something that they've ever talked about? Because I know the pandemic was something where this really got accelerated, but live streaming this kind of thing as well to those who aren't necessarily in that localized area who would want to see this?
To quote one of the songs from the film that's going to be in this adaptation, never say never.
Stay tuned, folks, as we say in broadcast. Stay tuned. Film at 11, bulletins at once. Exactly. So that's cool. When did you guys, when were you brought in, and how long has it been working on this production, which is getting ready to launch on the 25th, running through June 8th? And we're giving people the information, how they can get the tickets and the website and everything, sprinkling that into the conversation. But from when you first got the calls, hey, we want to bring you guys in to help us work on this, to having it ready to go, as you're still working on it now, of course.
Yeah,
how long was that process? Yeah,
it's a long process. I mean, we first got the call, it was 2019, I think, because when we met Itamar for the first time, we got to meet him in person at a restaurant, so it had to be.
Yeah, and that seems like ages ago, 2019 already, doesn't it? Just the way the world is now.
Yeah, so as it turned out, you know, we ended up writing the bulk of the first draft in lockdown, you know, from our respective Zoom screens together. But it was a great project to have to work on during that time, to keep us all from going crazy. And but yeah, it takes a long time, you know, because we've had a lot of wonderful support from the Children's Theater Company, and we've done several readings, you know, starting at like, here's the first draft, and we'll all just sit around a table and we'll sing you the songs and we'll all read it together, you know, to we've had the opportunity to have this cast now for a couple of different workshops. So to get to try out, you know, new things on people who know the show and are going to play the parts and like really tailor it to their strengths has been such a gift, you know. But yeah, it's taken us a long time to sort of to figure this thing out. But I think the work has paid off. I think we're in really good shape for opening, and yeah.
Tell us about the theater, the location itself. It seems, from what I've learned and the research we've done and just photos and what I've heard from folks, that it's quite a place.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. It's, I think, the premier theater for family audiences in the country. I grew up in Minnetonka, so I got to go see shows there as a kid all the time. We would go, with my school on field trips to see shows at the Children's Theater, and it's magical. I mean, it's a state of the art, professional theater, built around doing shows for young audiences and family audiences, and I think we're very lucky and excited to get to do our work there. It's a place to do it, I think.
Yeah, which is very exciting as well. And what are some other things that you guys have that you're working on as well, in addition to what we've talked about already, that maybe you're excited about, collaboratively or individually?
Alan and Sara are working on something very exciting.
Yeah, Jim, you peppered that in right at the beginning of this hour. Who told you I'm going to have a kid?
I've got my research. Yes,
Jim got the scoop. Yeah,
got the scoop. Yes,
Sara and I are expecting a little girl over the summer, so we are.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I mean, Sara is at home right now. Being very pregnant and being just an incredible partner and human grower. Yeah, so that's what's cooking in Connecticut right now.
Quite literally.
Always producing.
Yeah.
Well, and you can imagine. I mean, so Alan is about to become a new dad. I have a 5-year-old son at home, and so this story of this family, finding each other again and coming together, it's hitting real close to home, and it's pushing all the buttons.
Yeah,
it's a story of a man named Brady.
Yeah. It's very resonant to us.
That is fantastic. Wow. And you never know, you might be working on material with them as things go on. That's sometimes what happens, right? How cool would that be?
Or she could be a lawyer or an accountant.
Oh,
or,
yes. Right.
That would be okay too.
Whatever.
An Instagram influencer.
Jim,
a TikTok star.
as long as she's as healthy and happy as she can possibly be, that's
which is the bottom line, right, to it all.
That's his gravy.
Why do you guys love doing what you do? You've been doing it for quite some time. You're very passionate about it. I'll start with you, Michael. What is it about it that continues to bring you great blessing and joy?
Oh gosh, it's hard to put into words. I guess I feel like I feel very fulfilled, I guess, when we get to tell a story this way, and we get to, create songs that can move the story along and be meaningful for people. And since I was a kid, I've loved musical theater. My whole family, we're musical theater people, and so to think that I get to maybe take a small part in sort of moving that along and keeping that going, that tradition of telling stories with singing, that's the thrill of a lifetime, to get to sort of, it's such a unique form, and it's such a uniquely American form, really. And it's one that I love and I've always loved. So to try to do it as well as I can and make shows as good as they can be. And hopefully people who come to see them will love the shows and love the songs and maybe fall in love with musical theater. And, we get to keep this wonderful thing going.
Beautifully said. Alan, how about you? Same question. What are some of the blessings and joys that continue to foster your creativity moving forward with all of this great production?
Boy, I love that question.
Thank you.
I think that being creative is one of the, maybe the most human thing a human can do. I think being creative is inborn within every one of us, and what form or forms that creativity takes whatever varies by the individual, but I think it's something that is primal and available to us all, and profoundly natural. For me, I have found thus far, and who knows what the journey has in store, but doing this kind of work of creating music and creating lyric and making music in various forms, and using music and lyric to tell a story with characters that go on a journey. When I'm doing that, I feel that I am the most myself. I think I am expressing the most of myself. I am manifesting the most of myself. I feel most aligned with what might be a purpose when I'm doing those things. And to work toward making something that I would rather the world have it than not have it, feels it continues to draw work out of me, and it keeps bringing me back to the well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. What do you do to sort of separate yourself from it too? Meaning, how do you refresh, reboot? How do you sort of re-energize? Because it takes a lot of stamina and energy and creativity constantly to be in these industries that we're all in. So what are some of the things that you do to sort of de-amp, decompress, and unplug and plug back in?
It's a great question, and it's one that I've been thinking a lot about, especially very recently, because in that it sounds silly to say maybe, but during lockdown, I discovered weekends. I had never taken weekends. I had just worked until I was exhausted and then caught a cold and hid, and then got better and did it again. And one of the million blessings, speaking of blessings, that Sara brought into my life was, love, you should like work for some days and then not work for some days. And it was very eye-opening to discover, to answer your question, that you don't like any source, it is your responsibility to care for it and keep it healthy and clean. And for me, that means finding as much balance between taking in, putting out, between expression and impression, between work and leisure, drawing boundaries for yourself of, from this time to this time, I'm going to give all of myself to the work, but I can only, semicolon, I can only do that because I know that at the end of the day or at the end of the week, whatever, I'm going to turn the computer off, and I'm going to go call my wife, and I'm going to go have a snack, and I'm going to go read a book or watch some YouTube, and then go to bed. Without both sides of the coin, neither side can flourish. You can't just grind and grind and grind. I cannot just grind and grind and grind. The work suffers. And if you want the work to be good, you got to it's like if you want your body to be healthy, you got to take care of your body. And that doesn't mean work out for 5 hours, 6 hours every day, unless, I don't know, maybe, but like, that's too much for me. I find the physical working out that is healthy for me, and I find the creative working out that's healthy for me. So to actually, forgive me, answer your question, I try to draw healthy boundaries. I try to delegate whenever possible. I try to stay really organized. I am, whenever possible. When I was younger than I am now, I was a horrendous procrastinator, and after getting burned too many times by missing deadlines and being late to things and all the anxiety and depression that came with that, I started seeking out ways to manage my time and my energy better. Yeah,
Good answer. Yeah, what a perfect answer to that whole. That's fantastic.
Anxiety and depression, the musical
and I had
story.
it's part of the whole equation. what I asked him was, what does he do to sort of counter, not counter the creativity, but to wind down and unplug and plug back in, re-energize, reboot, get connected with self once again. And that was a great answer from Alan. How about you, Michael? What do you do to sort of, keep Michael energized and refreshed so you can get back out there and keep creating? What are some of the things you do?
I don't think Michael is re-energized or refreshed. It's at this moment it's a lot of enjoying my family. We just got a new dog, so there's a lot of walking of the dog, and that's nice when the weather's nice here, which it is now. Actually, one nice things is finding your own little personal artist dates. Like we've been working at the Children's Theater. It's attached to this wonderful art museum in Minneapolis, and so to sort of take breaks and get to walk through there has been really nice. And it's finding all sorts of different ways to relax and shut off the brain a little bit. And it's funny, like I also feel like a lot of times, I don't know if Alan feels the same way, but I think I get my best ideas when I'm not trying to write. Like, I think whenever you're doing anything else, it's like you let your subconscious start to pick away at things, in the background, and you're not even trying or thinking about it. And then like your subconscious brain will think of the most brilliant idea, and you don't know where it came from, but like you're in the shower and it's like, oh, that's how that verse should go.
Right. Yeah. Moments of inspiration that come, and just observing life, you can be inspired just being on a bus or a plane or supermarket and just seeing people and what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're acting, reacting, can be sources of incredible inspiration. I tend to be an observer of life. A lot of my humor, quick, dry wit, is observational humor, and I get that from my dad, who's originally also from New York City. How about you guys? Are you always observing life and people and interactions and what's going on around you? And do you pick up little nuggets from that observational awareness?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think you never know when an idea for a song is where it's gonna come from. It can come from anywhere. And we both we're theater students, so we did a lot of observing in college. A lot of going to the zoo and watching the bears walk around, and how do you walk like that?
Right.
I don't think that has ever fully left. But yeah, it's what's wonderful about creative art in general is everybody does it their own way, right? Everything gets filtered through the filter of you. So no matter where sort of inspiration is drawn from, or what what you listen to or what you see or what you watch and what inspires you, you have to sort of, you don't have any choice, but if you're going to make something, you have to filter it through yourself. And so everybody who does it a little bit differently. And so that's it being interested in what you're interested in as a person, I think makes you a better artist.
Well said. Absolutely. Well said. This was great, my friends. This is really amazing that, you've been able to have these individual careers, but have this great friendship and collaboration and creation that is happening for the good of all of us. I think is beautiful. And this presentation that starts in just a couple of days, for those that are watching now, if you're watching this a year from now, well, it's old news, but still you can follow along some of the great things that are happening at the theater, and of course their illustrious careers. Here is the info, gang. childrenstheater.org/American Tale. There's the ticket office phone number as well to get your tickets to enjoy. It's good stuff. I know you guys are busy. You're on the thick of just a couple of days before this kicks off, and the anticipation is high. Are you getting some sleep about now, or is it sleepless nights leading up?
Yeah. We're sleeping right now. Maybe we'll get even a little bit closer still. But again, it's what we were talking about before. I think you can only do good work in your waking hours if you also are at least endeavoring to have sleeping hours, you know? So maybe ask us in a few days. Maybe I'll be a little less well rested. You know, we're working hard, and then we are recharging the batteries, and then we get back up and we do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been wonderful to work at the Children's Theater, and it's been taking a little bit of getting used to the schedule there, just because there are actors who are students and there are actors who are grown adults, so they have to kind of rehearse to maximize the usage of everybody who's in school and who's not. So we go from like noon to 9:30 or something, and it's it can be kind of late nights for some of us, but coffee is our friend.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You guys are great, Alan and Michael. Thanks for stopping by the Jim Master Show series. We really appreciate it. And
Thanks for having us.
best of luck with everything you guys are doing and with this performance of An American Tale, the musical. I'm sure you guys, everybody's going to knock it out of the park. It sounds like you've got an amazing crew. You're surrounded by a brilliant cast, and everybody's working so hard. So
Yes.
we encourage folks to get their tickets and enjoy, and hope to welcome you guys back individually or collectively. Keep us posted on all the cool things you're working on. You got a lot of stuff you've done, a lot of stuff you're immersed in, and a lot of stuff that's coming down the pike for all of us. So we appreciate all this time, my friends, and we're going to keep the porch light on for you. And as we always say, hope you enjoy the time with me as much as I have with you.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us.
The pleasure is all mine. Spread the word about our show. Takes a village.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that. We'll see you guys again soon, and good luck with everything, okay?
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks so much. Bye.
All right.